changed a lot recently.
Yeah.
Right, what's coming? So just through here. Take a seat. Right, I brought the plans with me, and I've got a copy of the letter that you obviously sent. So where would you like to start?
I mean, for me, I'd go through the letter which I sent earlier,
Okay.
and use that as the agenda as such.
Okay. I've had a look through it. Obviously, the letter it's already gone to Ben Hayward, who's the manager.
Okay.
Now, Ben's been on leave this week with the exception of Monday. And when I saw him on Monday, because we were both at planning committee, he has got the letter, so he'll have a look at it when he's back in the office on Tuesday next week. So he will respond to you though in writing.
Sure. Okay.
So,
All right.
okay, right.
Is it worthwhile?
Do you want to sort of
have you
point
got,
to
have
the...
you got the plans?
Yeah,
Did you say?
yeah.
Have you got the scale? Right, I think the first matter really, just jumping straight into the items, was firstly picking up on the actual size of the stables. Now, one of the objections really was the sheer total floor area, a very large building, and what was pointed out was the British Horse Society guidelines. Now, one matter really which I picked up on in your notes really.
Was that in the report that I had read the report that's on the web?
Yeah.
Okay.
With what you're saying really was that those are not mandatory or statutory guidelines. Yeah. Now, noted, albeit obviously they're there for a reason. And the British Horse Society have put them there. Now, the one thing which I pointed out really was that what was quoted in your notes was the smallest stable, which was 4.3 to 3.6, which is the recommended size for a larger horse. But the other two, they've gone for 4.3 to 4.3. So they've obviously edged the bets on increasing the size of those stables, and then added to that, the point I'm making also is that the hay and whether they term it as the food,
the tack room
and the tack room, they've created two separate rooms for that as well. And there was one thing which we know is that a lot, obviously having looked into this, a lot of councils do produce guidelines for these because of the concern of this kind of shall we say clause which kind of seems to be able to break through and build anything on the green belt for horses because it's recreational purposes. So they've obviously had concerns of the development on green belt because of this. And obviously what it does in the future as well, it opens the gateway for, whether it be 5, 10, 15 years that, housing is suddenly applied for, or a dwelling, or a holiday let, or where stables are. So they've actually come up with guidelines to first of all control, the actual development of stables on greenbelt. And so really that's what we're referring to, and really kind of making the point that surely, that they're there for a reason.
The difficulty we have, I notice you put in your letter that other councils have guidelines as to what's permissible in the green belt. This council doesn't. We don't have anything like that. So I've got nothing to. If I want to refuse a planning application, I need to go to the development plan policy and then if there's any other like guidance that the council may have drafted up. So I've got no guidance to go to, I've only got the policy which doesn't specify sizes. In terms of the BHS, they are guidelines. That's the problem I've got, is that it's not a fixed area that I have to ensure that every stables complies with. And what I did, because I'd read your letter, your initial objection letter, so I went to the applicant and I sought clarification on the actual size of her horses, so that I could understand what she had. You know, what ages were they? Were they likely to get bigger, or are they fully grown horses at the moment? And I put all that into the report deliberately, so that I could sort of demonstrate to you I haven't ignored the point that you're making. But the problem is, it is only guidelines. It's simply not a policy of this council.
But the reason that people started guidelines is to protect the people that are surrounding it, because, you know, this has really put a lot of stress on me, a lot of stress, and I just cannot believe that it's just been ignored, and guidelines really get to me because I've already lost a child, not that it's got anything to do with this, but when it comes to guidelines and people dismiss it saying, well, we don't have to adhere to it because the council hasn't got any policies. Well, really, the council should have a policy, because the guidelines that are being done by the Horsing Association, because people realise that it's important.
If it was a statutory requirement, I completely agree with your comments. I wouldn't have any problems with that. But a guideline is a guideline. A guideline doesn't tell you it's got to be exactly that.
I kind of accept that. I mean, you know, a lot of industries and the industry I'm involved in work-wise is guidelines, albeit there's overruling mandatory guidelines, and when I say guidelines, the clauses which you know, work regulations, health and safety at work regulations, which are clauses which they're a generalisation, and an organisation has to prove that they've met those, and so there's guidelines produced, and they use those recognised guidelines to prove the point that they have met those statutory and mandatory.
It's not statutory though. That's for the council. It's not a statutory requirement. I can go. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But what is the point of guidelines if you're not gonna take any board? And I think what we're kind of upset with is you said that the horsing guidelines doesn't matter, but then you've used it to support the applicant in justifying why they can't use the stables that are already there. And I just think you can't say a statement and then use it against what we're saying. I just think that's that's wrong. I just think you can't use a rule
to deal with one. The size of these stables is a common size in this area. What we've approved is not something...
I've been around the area and I've looked at other stables, and none of them, they're not in an L shape, and they're not as big as them. Even down the road from us, there's the stables, and it's just one long thing. In Whaley Bridge, there's stables. They're not in an L shape, they're just across, and they're not as big as that.
It depends, though, on the number of horses the person has and what they're trying to accommodate.
But the horses, in fairness, right, what they've done is they've taken their horses from Coombs, where the horses had perfectly good stables, and they moved them onto the land. They didn't change it from to egg craze, just do this recreation. Just left the horses on, and then they've gone in saying to us, oh, we're going to get planning. We've already spoken to planning, and we're going to get this planning because we put the horses on, so they also have to give us planning because we put the horses on.
But having horses in the countryside is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, but you've got to, there's reasons why we've got greenbelt on our agricultural land, and there's a horse.
In principle, in the greenbelt are acceptable.
But not acceptable right next to people's residential. That's why other councils have got policies and they go with the horsing regulations to keep people away from it.
We don't have those. That's what I'm saying. I can't apply another council's standard or policy to
But you have to listen to them why they're doing them in the first place.
I think really the point we're making now is that you know, obviously we're accepting that IP councils don't have any guidelines, but in order to not reinvent the wheel, you do obviously look into what guidelines are available, rather than accept what the applicant's telling you, because the applicant is going to tell you exactly what they want, and what they've asked for what they want, they've got. And one of the principles as well is not only the size of the stables, is also refer to the existing stables, where you do refer to guidelines. Which is contradiction.
Well, those stables won't have been built in accordance with the guidelines. I can tell you now because I've been into the building. No, but you're saying to me that...
No, but you said in your report, you referred to the guidelines in your report, but then you're saying to us right now that and in the correspondence that these guidelines don't matter, but then you use them.
No, I'm not saying they don't matter. I'm saying that I can't refuse a planning application on a guideline. I can only refuse a planning application on a policy.
Well, probably the point we're making is that we were accepting that when you say horses are allowed in the countryside, of course they are.
And the green belts, absolutely.
And we spoke with the neighbours early on, and they showed us. When I say show, they took us to the field there, and they pointed out what size these stables were going to be. They weren't going to be an L shape. They were going to be a rectangle, which was against this wall. And so we kind of, we weren't over the moon about it, and then also this track was going to go through the middle of the hedge, because obviously that L shape wasn't there. And so everything what they said, as I say, we weren't over the moon about it, but like you say, is that, horses are part and parcel of the countryside, and what can we do about it? And so the also mentioned to us about these existing stables, and that's why we're aware of.
Have you been into those stables? Because I have, and I know that those stables.
But it doesn't matter if I've been in them stables. The fact is, that's really upsetting me. They've played this very cleverly. They just shoved the horses on without due care and attention to the horses, because they've not got any things. And I've spoken to my friends who've got horses, so I haven't got no issues with horses. And they said they live in the Peak District, and they said to me that they wouldn't be able to get planning permission for stables. They would have to have what do you call it?
Change of use.
Mobile state thingies. So they've played it really clever with this. But the thing that's really annoying, other than the slander that they put against us, saying I don't like horses and dogs, I've got no issues. I've got a horse across the road from us. What I've got an issue with is the size of it and how close it is and how close that track is. That's my bedroom window. That's where I sleep. This is where we're sleeping on a night time. And that track is going to go right. And you said on your letter, where's the other point? Because I'm jumping.
Do you want to look at the road and how close it is? Because I know you raised that as an issue in your letter.
Well, it's a big issue. It's a huge issue for us.
The one thing I really wanted to not move away from at the moment is that these existing stables. The main point really about the new stables being there, and obviously there's horses on the land now. I suppose first of all, really, are you saying High Peak Council as well, is that you don't recognise that being change of use of Greenbelt?
No, we do recognise it, absolutely, but it depends on whether there is an actual change of use as to whether it requires planning permission, and that's how we determine whether something requires planning permission or not.
So the planning, really from High Peak Council point of view, you're saying that the planning permission isn't needed for...
We don't think so, it is at the moment. If they started using the land in a different way, in so much as, for example, and I'm not saying they are because they've never said this to me, say they started allowing other people to use the land to come and exercise their horses, jump their horses, something like that, then that would require planning permission. At the moment, they haven't done anything like that, so I can't...
No, she goes horse riding with a friend.
But
I don't even know if it's a friend, to be honest, but I just find it incredible that it's that easy to get planning and you don't have any regard for the residentials living there. And I just like, they're doing it further away from their house than our house, and then they cut down this hedge, which is their entitlement, just purposely to put their gate in, which again is the thingy. But I just think that, I would have thought that the council and planning would protect us because of these, you saying that you don't really listen to the guidelines because they're just guidelines and there's nothing that you can use because the High Peak Borough Council haven't got any regulations on horses. And I think the reason that other councils have got regulations is obviously cases like ours obviously come up and then they think, well, actually we should have a policy in place. Because, you know, who wants to live behind a stable? I didn't buy this house to live behind a stable. You know, even the horse across the road from us, his stables are further away from residential, aren't they? And we have to now put up with this unless we could, and I just don't see why I should have to. And that's why I've been writing to as many people as I can, because I didn't think we were going to pass this because of the greenbelt issues. Obviously, I'm not naive. That it has been passed, and now I've got somebody being very smug with me, saying my horses won't harm you. We will have an accident. The owner before this had her son lost right on the highway in front of our house. So I'm very protective of where I live and where we choose to live, and I don't choose to live next to a trek right next to my bedrooms. But the fact is that you can just ignore this building and then just say, well, we need this for my horses, knowing full well that you're buying land, knowing full well, you know, what did they say to us? They said to us in the meeting that we had that it doesn't matter what we think, they can do whatever they like with their land. That's what they said, didn't they?
They said they've been doing this a long time and they know what they can do.
Well, I mean, people buy land and they'll talk to neighbours and they'll say all kinds of things to you. But the fact is they've had to go through planning permission. They've not just done everything that they wanted to do, if you see what I mean. They've had to go through due process with the council.
They have.
And don't forget there's a gate here already to access the land, because this was done the thing, and that's been totally ignored. And they said to us that the council, with the planning, they said the planning, let me finish, sorry. They said to us that the planning officer told them that was the only place that they could have on this land.
Well, that's not true. So I can tell you that right now, I've never said to them that's the only place that they're staying.
Because I said to them, why is it that you have to put it there? Why can't you put it on this side? And they just said it was because the planning said that was the best place.
Well, we didn't. I can absolutely confirm that.
But
at no time have I told them that that's the only place you can
we know full well, because
I suspect they may be saying things to you that are not entirely truthful, shall I say then.
I think from our point of view though is that I can't get away from the fact that this building here, which is the stables, and you know, you're saying that it's not big enough, and obviously the applicants have told you that.
I've been inside it.
Okay, so
I've had to look around because of that point you raised.
Yeah, I mean, they use it as stables at the moment, so, you know, because...
I don't think the horses are in there, because when I went to
because it's been winter.
When it's this, you know, like the bad weather we're talking about, they are in there, because they won't be out in, you know, -10 on the field. So, but what I'm really saying is, though, is that the land here, there's more than sufficient scope to make those to the size of what's needed for their horses. And really what I'm saying is that, again, the applicant has manoeuvred you into actually, they want them there, they want new ones. They don't want that to be a stables, because we know the reason why as well. So really what I'm saying is they seem to have cajoled you into exactly what they want.
But they could have converted that to offices anytime they wanted. There's no restrictions on it being a stable.
But you do have, I thought, when you've changed the shop from office, I thought you had to get planning permission. Because when you change the use of the building, when I've been looking at shops myself, because I run a non-profit, so...
That's completely different to this.
Why is it different though? Why can you do that then? How come you can do that from home?
Say you had a garage that you'd built at the same age as this, back in the 70s, there will be no restrictions on the use of that building other than it's used for domestic purposes. So you could change that to your home office and you wouldn't need planning permission, because it is your home office. It's not, you're not running...
But they're running a care agency, so we've got people coming in and out of the property.
Would it not be good though that, you know, to avoid, I know you're saying that, you know, horses on the land, and that's fine, but we're talking about big stables.
Yeah.
That wasn't needed if they'd put the stables there, and then you wouldn't have had...
But they didn't apply for planning permission for that. I can't say, right, you need to put your stables there, because I've got to... you know, you can put planning application in for anything. If you put it in, then I've got to look for what reason. Is there a reason that I can refuse that planning permission, notwithstanding the fact that there's that building there? You're asking me, is that acceptable?
Yeah.
and we found that it was. That's the problem. I can't suddenly just...
But I don't understand how that's acceptable. How's that acceptable when that's so close to my home? That's so close to my home. That is so close to my home. You even in your letter, in your rejection letter, you said it doesn't matter about the noise pollution because they're not going to use it all the time. You're not going to be there. That's the closeness of that. That is not acceptable. I'm not accepting that noise. You don't know how often they're going to do that. You don't have any idea if that tractor's going to fall down onto my home.
We've restricted this use solely to the occupants of this building, so it's not commercial.
But it doesn't matter how many cars are going up there. It takes one car to go up there, one tractor to go up there. I don't care how often you're going to do it. Accidents happen every single day of your lives, and that is just implicating an accident to happen. Even now it's even been said in the open, I can just foresee it happening. I've worked so many years, both of us worked in construction, I've worked as a house buyer. And as a house buyer, you would have to bring in retaining wall issues. That land is sloped. Our buildings are already ruined because they put horses on without drainage. All the waters come under our foundations and they're completely worn out. They were never worn out before the horses came along. And then you're telling me that that's acceptable, the stables are acceptable.
They could have put the horses on the land and I couldn't stop them doing that.
Well, in the other counties, they seek to have to change the use of I can't pronounce it,
Agricultural use.
Yes, because the whole idea...
I've just said though, at this stage, we don't think there's change of use has occurred, but if it does, then we will be asking them...
But it has though, it's gone from being sheep reared to agricultural land to equestrian land. It's gone that overnight without you saying you don't need planning permission for that. That's
at this stage, yes, but if they started doing something different, so if they started doing a recreational use with their horses, so say they had their friends, family, jumps going up, something like that, then I would agree with you, I wouldn't disagree at all. But at this stage, they haven't seen that on the land.
No, I think that what we're...
I think it's something fundamental wrong though, isn't it? When you can just put horses on the land and then we get a big massive thing. And I don't care, you're saying that it doesn't really matter, you can just put horses as part of the countryside. The fact is, you're not just building a small, that's a big building. That's a massive building. It's a massive impact. And I've literally gone round other places in Whaley Bridge, can't see any residential near the stables either, and I just think it's just been really overlooked. I don't think
people might apply for a stable block because they've only got 2 horses. So when you say
they've got about 3 or 4 horses at Whaley Bridge.
You know, when you see other people, we grant planning permission based on what the need of the land and the number of horses are. Say they had 10 horses on this land, the land wouldn't be big enough to support 10 horses. Yeah, because you need just over 5 acres of land. You need roughly 1 acre per horse.
But that's what I'm saying though, you can just put horses on and then you're going to get granted planning permission regardless of what size it is. And I just think how do you protect the green belt? Where's the pictures on your phone?
It's not about protecting the green belt.
Just look at the state of it. That was green. That was green.
Well, these were the photos I took when I did my...
Where's your photograph?
When I did my site visit, these are the pictures I took because I came into your property as well and had a look. And I had a look at your relationship to yourselves. So when my boss, Ben Hayward, who you've written to, was looking at this, he was looking at all these photographs as well. So
but you've not, where's the top one where my greenhouse is? Because you can't get up there at the moment because it's overgrown at the moment, because we haven't been able to get out there. I'm 30, I'm quite heavily pregnant, so I can't really go up and cut things down. But when you get to there, you can see, I can see from my window, see from my window the horses from the window standing in my landing when I come in. Yeah. So I can see everything up there. And when we go into summertime, I won't be able to go up there now because it's so close to the horses, and the horses are just eating our shrubs and they're just totally worn out our buildings, and I keep to that. And I just think, I don't know how you can make a judgment when you've not got all the evidence there. There's no pictures of where our greenhouse is. And there's no pictures from inside our house either, showing how close our concerns are. I'm not just saying it to be the awkward
I've stood here.
Yeah, but that's there. That's not round here. Where I go out my patio door, onto the stairs, up to the greenhouse bit.
I can't protect your greenhouse from other people's development.
No, I think that Kira's
I can protect your property.
What we're saying, what we're saying really though is that I think what the fact boils down to is that how has the, shall we call it, the residential amenity been actually assessed on the basis of, you know, a barn or stables, I should say, being plumbed in that corner. Two things really. Two things really is that one of the things is that very nicely the stables get located further away from their house than ours. So that's all very well for them. They get the stables what they want. There seems to be some assessment that this new hedge is needed for the public walking down the footpath. So
not really. I mean, well, the reason I've referenced it in the report is because you've got your existing stone wall here, and then they offered to put in a new beach head, to put in, you know, a beach head the other side wall, which is I'm never going to say you shouldn't do something.
No, but obviously it's not them; it's the architect. The architect knows what he's doing and knows what's needed to push it through planning, and so you know
that didn't weigh heavily in my mind. If they haven't reached that, I would still recommend
obviously
approval.
it's worked, and you've referenced it in your report. You know, as softening the landscape. So it's done its job for the architect and the applicant. But what I'm saying, the point I'm really making is that it's screened from there, it's screened here. How a residential
amenity... But you already have all these trees up on your boundary.
And can I tell you, the first thing what they said was, they'll be hacking those branches off, any which actually...
They are entitled to do so.
No, they have to get permission of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
What I'm saying though is...
But you do have some landscaping in this area. It's not like it's there's nothing there whatsoever.
But
I do take that into account.
It is a garden though, isn't it? It is a garden.
Yeah.
So when we're in our garden,
the levels of you've got your outbuildings up here, and your levels are quite high up here. The main area I look at to protect your garden is, for example, where you've got your patio and your immediate area here, because that's where you're going to congregate more we've got buildings. I've got things in that building. They're all ruined now, but I've got things in our buildings, and we have plans to use that greenhouse. I've got horses up there over our fence. My daughter can go up that time, any time in summertime. We're looking at this in winter. We've been highly criticised for the mess of our garden, which has nothing to do with anybody. But the fact is, it's on a public forum on the site about how disgraceful our garden is, and it's tough luck. We got planning. Sod all the environmental issues. When someone makes comments like that about any neighbour, I don't take it into account. I couldn't care less what they think about your garden.
But I happen to care, and it's happened to Lily Pat. Them horses are in our garden. They shouldn't be even close to our garden. They're 6 foot horses. They're massive horses. My little girl is only down here. We're not horse trained. Doesn't mean I don't like horses. It's just the true fact that, you know, the woman across the road, her horse threw her off her horse. So that's how dangerous horses can be if you're not. Even if you're used to it, they can be dangerous. Never mind someone like me. And the fact is, when we put in did we put in our objection about double fencing? No. We did in this one, didn't we?
Well, it's pointing out the fact.
You did in your latest letter, you have done, yes.
And I just think, you know, nobody said consider it, and you saying that we're going to use that lower garden, that's a big consideration. And I really feel that you should have met us before this planning was even admitted to liberate these things, because I'm really hoping that, and I'm hoping to God, that some compromise is made, because I don't feel safe in my home. I'm saying to Phil, I don't want to go home because I feel that unsafe, that any time now that's going to be having works on it, and I'm going to have a car in my garden, and you saying that it's not impossible, saying it's not going to happen. This is on 2 layers. The land goes down. There's no structural enforcements in this planning, is there?
Well,
So, and if, I mean, all the years of working in house building, we have to have retaining reports on how to retain that land. Since you start digging that and digging that and digging that, that's going to have an impact on our home.
but you're saying it may have. There's no evidence.
It's not me.
Well,
there is going to be an accident down there. I slip on my drive. People have problems slipping on our drive. The skip driver has broken our wall because he slipped off the drive. It's happened. It's real terms. It happens. And then just saying that it won't happen is totally ignorant. It is going to happen. A car is going to slip off there and it is going to go towards our garden. I can foresee it now. There's no health and safety. That road is not health and safety to our house.
It's supposed to be a track. It's not supposed to be
It doesn't matter if it's a track. That's even worse. I got you telling me that you want to sleep in a bedroom, knowing that a tractor can go down here, up and down here at any given time. And you've got to sleep, rest on that piece, knowing that any time now an accident can happen.
I think, though, the difficulty is that this road, as it's been presented to us, and I've put this very clearly in my report, was that there are no proposals to excavate any of this land. Yeah, if they
you're going to have to excavate to put down the stone. They're going to have to dig it out.
The topsoil and just put down some.
But you've got to make it sturdy. You've got to make it sturdy for a tractor. It's how big is a tractor? About 3 tons.
But the thing is,
3 tons. You're going to have to dig down some amount to put down.
You don't know it's going to be a tractor that's entering.
They've already told us they're going to have a small tractor to bring it up.
A small tractor. So
it doesn't matter. It's still 3 tons. It's still 3 ton equipment.
Yeah.
And in a car. I don't know who wants a car in their house. Who says it's not going to slip just because it's a track? That's totally ignorance. And the fact is, why they've done it, like Phil said, they've done it further away from their house, closer to our house. And this is why I took a picture from our window. I'm going to be able to see that. I'm going to be able to hear it.
I think the one thing about the trackway, talking.
I mean, it's got, for us. This is a stables that's used by the occupants. It is not a stable that's going to be used by every man and his dog. And as a consequence of that, when you look at the level of vehicular activity,
they're going to use that as an office. They're going to be using that as a parking thing. I guarantee that. When they have the caring people around for a meeting, that's going to be used as a car park.
But
and it's nothing that we can do to stop it. That's going to be a car park. I can guarantee people will be parking. There's already cars there.
I cannot refuse planning permission on.
But you have restrictions on noise pollution, and you've totally dismissed that, saying it's not going to be used. You've made the observation saying that it's not going to be used.
The width of this road is 2.5 metres. And I noticed this was something that was a reoccurring sort of comment in both objections.
I think one of the mentions I had really was that, again, it's kind of the theme. What we see is that obviously the applicant, has done and his architect's done a good job, but they've first of all, it's these guidelines. They're kind of I call dismiss. You'd say. Not mandatory, not statutory. This hedge, it kind of eases it through again. And what I'm saying is, say with the trackway as well, for some reason you've mentioned 13 metres.
Yeah. Shall I tell you where I've mentioned?
Yeah.
Right. So this plan is one's 500 plan. Your window is right in the apex of your property there. Yeah, so when you look at that window, can you see when I say it's in the apex? Yeah. It's directly there. Okay. So I've measured from that point of your property to the closest point on the access road there. Yeah?
But that's not the closest point there.
No, but it's the window. The window where...
Yeah, but if you look out the window that way, it's still closed, and it's still the noise pollution. You got in it that there's going to be noise pollution, but you're saying because it's not going to be used, it doesn't matter.
No, there will be some noise pollution, but how is it any different than the use of any garden?
No, it's not, because I got vehicles different than sitting in the garden.
Here, what would that cause you noise pollution?
Pardon?
If they put a trampoline, if they put something?
No, it wouldn't. No, a trampoline wouldn't cause you noise problems.
I think
I'd rather have a trampoline than a track.
My point is that all this area is garden and that can be used for garden purposes.
But it's not for drive for cars.
So what I'm saying, I have to assess whether I think the level of activity in terms of the use of this road versus what can already be used in a garden is going to be any more harmful to you. Yeah, and yes, there is now vehicles going here.
Yeah.
It's different, that's a big
agree.
difference.
I agree.
Change, isn't it?
But in terms of the frequency, when it's the applicant's own horses, this isn't anyone else.
It doesn't matter, there's going to be vehicles going up there, that causes a harm, that causes
If
noise,
it's
and that's...
occasional- if
No,
it's
but it's not, you don't know, that's what they're telling you. They've just told you, they told us that they had to put it there. They told us that it was you doing this.
And I've
They've told
explained to
you
you
not.
already,
I know,
because I haven't said that.
But this is what I mean. They're telling you everything else, and it just seems to me that they're just being able to get with whatever. It doesn't matter about from what I can see. It doesn't matter about the statutory guidelines. It doesn't matter about noise pollution.
Statutory guidelines. That point
Sorry,
absolutely clear.
Well, it doesn't matter.
They're not statutory.
But guidelines were done for a purpose, right? And I've recently gone against...
Are not mandatory requirements.
But the reason...
what I'm saying, and that's the difference. It is not...
Well, but the reason have guidelines is a purpose.
I would agree with you. If it was, I would agree with you.
I'm just finding this really frustrating because you're not listening to us, and I value points, and it's like, I just feel like our objection, I feel the planning was agreed before we even got someone employed. I feel like I wasted money on a specialist, and I feel like I'm wasting my time doing this complaint because all you're going to do is come back saying you're justifying this is safe. So I'm going to say to you, right, if I have a vehicle in my garden...
because I recommended that planning permission should be
But you know what, sometimes you can be wrong. Sometimes you can make mistakes, and you can say to these applicants, you know what, you can have your planning, but just move the track away.
I think that's the point with me. I know you're saying that you've justified this, but and like Kira says, mistakes do happen.
But it's not a mistake. It wasn't just my decision. It was also the manager's Ben Hayes'
But
decision.
well, I'll tell you, you didn't come to my house. You didn't come and speak to us. You went on our land without speaking to us. You didn't come into our house. You didn't come into my home. You didn't speak to us.
From what the person, the employee is, shall we say, who's managing, they do the work, and he does the overview of it. But really, what I'm saying is that it doesn't actually warrant that there's not errors made in that judgment, and really.
But he agrees with my judgment. That's what.
But you never had the conversation with us.
So he would be he would be held responsible for that, because he's the manager.
Well, I mean, he's going to be responding certainly to your allegation of complaint.
And I think really what we're saying is that. And that's why we've put these matters in here, is that there doesn't seem to be, shall we say, consistency there on certain matters, on how you explain it, of your judgment, and then obviously you use that reasoning to dismiss something else. But I think the one matter as well is, we talked about this trackway, and it's a road. A trackway is something which vehicles don't go on. It's a road, and it's routed through this garden, and that is it's a significant change which is not needed. That is the key point here. It's not needed because there's access there. Yeah. This isn't needed here. So with regards to the residential amenity, then we wouldn't have the problems
feel
there.
like it is,
so that could have been there's 5 acres there to go at.
5.5 acres.
But obviously it works for them because the cheapness of getting electricity there, dealing with the drainage, getting water there. You put it over there, they've got a problem. So again, it works for them. They don't have to go traipsing from their house over to here. It works for them again. All I'm saying is everything's stacked towards this applicant, and we've been left on our own here, with a bloody great big huge stables.
We've got nothing protecting us.
We bought this house with Greenbelt behind us, and now we've got bloody great big stables.
Yeah. Never mind.
It's the horses. The horses are horses, but it's what they generate. There's manure. There's everything else which goes with it.
Yes.
Vehicles can come up here and park on here as well. That's a significant change. Again, there's no restrictions on parking imposed.
But we wouldn't do simply because it is a one person with their stable.
But what
we
do you
never
do?
restrict parking because if they do turn up,
It's a green belt, isn't it?
It doesn't matter
just
because
because you live in a green belt, the green belt doesn't mean to say that you can't carry out any development. That's not the purpose of the green belt.
Well, I know. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of erosion of green belt at the moment, but usually that's on the boundaries of where green belt starts.
But the reason that they brought you saying you don't give I'm getting the message that you don't really care about the horsing association guidelines because they're just guidelines. They're not statutory. Yeah, but you're kind of using it. You used it to. I feel that the applicant has got you on her side. Doesn't really matter what we say, and that you use the horsing association things on this. And you totally, when we brought it up, it's been ignored. When I brought up the noise pollution, you're comparing it to a trampoline.
No, I'm just saying.
And you're not putting in the risk of the thing is, I've got no retaining issues. There is no retaining engineering thing. So when you build that road, when you start digging that land is going to slide down. It already has. You can see it from the buildings. It's not rocket science. And it's not rocket science that is going to pose some danger to our house. And I don't care if it's once a year, twice a year. There's going to be at one point an accident because there's already been an accident on our garden with experienced driving hitting our wall because he slipped.
What's the wrong doing in imposing a restriction on parking? Because there's no need for vehicles to be parked up there, is there?
No, I mean, but if there was vehicles parked up there because there was some riding club, say, who decide to turn up and they want to start exercising their horses on the land and they start parking up there, then that is a change. This is something that can only be used by the applicant. This is not something that can be used by any other people. And as an applicant,
Where's your phone?
sorry. As the applicant, it's one person. It's not like we're talking like.
But it's not just one person,
if this lady
is it? It's everyone.
brings her car up and parks here,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have a problem with that.
I know you.
You don't have a
I know
problem.
you wouldn't, but what I'm saying is we
do.
would.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what we're saying is that this blue L shape here, it first of all it looks big as it is. We know full well there's going to be plastic buckets and all sorts hanging out here. There's going to be manure, and then there's going to be vehicles parked on here.
When you say vehicles, there's one applicant. What vehicles are you talking about?
You only have to look at this here. The amount of vehicles he's got.
They've already got vehicles. They've already got a caravan. They've got a caravan. They've got a works thingies. They've got thingies. They've got people coming in.
They're entitled to have that on what.
We're not saying that.
Arguably, they could park it anywhere in their garden.
They put the caravan.
No, they can't put the caravan up there because that's a change of use then. So.
But you've got the tables there. Well, I just think that I thought the planning was to protect people, and when these buildings go up, that you are protected because that's not protecting us. The noise pollution thing, I disagree wholeheartedly that you can't just balance it on how they tell you how often they're going to use it. The fact is that's going to be a trek. And that's a big difference from a trampoline to a car noise.
I've got a trampoline to try and give you an example.
No, because that's not an example. I'd rather have a child jumping on a trampoline than having a car up there.
Well, but you were talking.
But I wouldn't have bought this property. I would not have bought.
Noise.
It is noise, and it's I'm living in there. That's where we sleep on a night.
Noise.
This is a garden area.
Yes.
It's a garden area where noise can occur at the moment anyway.
So
it's not because
noise is kind of lower down on the list. I think the principle being is that it's vehicles coming through here. It's not. This isn't flat land as we.
No, it isn't. I mean,
it's on a slope.
So the photographs of that.
So really, it's that negotiation of the vehicle coming down here. I mean, obviously we can see this kind of doing a nice meandering. I'm sure when the ground worker comes along, this is going to change. You know, it'll fill the lay of the land. So what I'm saying is there's scope here for this to start creeping round. So that's what we're even more concerned of. Because They're obviously, you know, they're obviously starting to play the game. They've shoved an old grotty bath up against our fence here, where it passes water. I can see the manure is going to be the next thing where they'll have a good laugh about as well.
One of the planning conditions we put on, you've seen the conditions, haven't you? Is
this is the stables in Whaley Bridge.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
They've got no residential fee.
Which is even more dangerous because then someone might want a house down there because they want to live near the horses. You know, you can
so exactly, so you can start building on here because then you start.
This is the roller coaster.
But that, look at the state. So look at the state of that. That's what we're going to be ended up looking at. Just all the farm. It comes with so many things.
What I'm saying is that
if they bought, forget this ever happened. Say they just had this field, they could fence it off into small parcels and put all their plastic containers on it, and they wouldn't need planning permission. They could do that anyway.
But we're talking about this.
You're saying look at the state of the land and the fact that it's subdivided and there's plastic.
But that's what comes
But
with
they could do that anyway, so I'm mindful of that when I'm granting planning permission because they can already do it. They can already do that.
But you posed what you've admitted is this massive stable.
Well, I don't agree it's
massive. It is massive. It's the size of a 3-bed. Where's that picture you did? That's not massive.
I'm not comparing it to a dwelling though. It's not a dwelling.
But it might as well be a dwelling because it's as big as our house. It's as big as the other one. And the more frustration thing is that we're going to go away today and there's nothing going to be agreed. We're just going to get a letter that says sod you. None of your concerns are our concerns.
The concerns were taken into account though.
But no, they haven't been taken.
But we didn't agree with you. Because that's the difference.
Because you're not living here. Do you buy my house off me? Because I don't want to live here anymore. And so I've been waiting for 7 years to do work on this house. And yourself, we have a letter from my architect saying that we were able to do works to our house, didn't it? But when we were restricted on how big we can go to because of Greenbelt. And you're saying, because it's horses, sod people, sod how close that the residential is, sod guidelines from the Horsing Association, sod the noise pollution thing, because we're going to compare that to a trampoline. And it doesn't matter, there's no retaining structural thing. It doesn't matter, all your outbuildings are completely ruined because of all this happening. It's just really, I'm trying not to get emotional, this is why Phil deals with talking to people, because I just talk straight to the point. But I've got children, I've got to live in this bedroom, and I've got to live it. I don't even want to go home because I know any moment now that track's going to go in and there's nothing I can do about it, and nobody cares enough to do anything about it. They've got 5.5 acres. That track could have gone in here. Them stables could have gone in here. But no, they've told us a blank lie saying that was your enforcement, and there's nothing I can do, and it's all being passed. There's no restrictions. There's nothing to say, Kira, this is the retaining structural thing. This is what's going to do with train the land and your land, because that's going to have an impact on mine. That's why when you apply for housing permission, regardless what the build is, might be a stable, but you've still got to dig down for the foundations. You've still got to build up. You're still going to have muddy tractors. There's going to be work people coming in, the concrete people coming in, isn't there? There's concrete people, people who are going to build the scaffolding, everything's going to come up that road.
It will be initially, you will have obviously.
So I'm going to have all these people coming up there, and there's no health and safety. There's no health and safety issues.
Well, no, there isn't
health and safety issues. No, because you've not put any restrictions. They're going to be using that road. They're going to be using that track.
There's legislation that deals with health and safety.
But that's going to be on the track, and the planning officer and the planning and the council should have protected us and said that is too close because of the noise pollution, but you dismissed it saying there's not going to be many there, and it's even at the start of it. And I just feel like when we get this letter, it's just going to be a total waste of our time, and I'm not going to be able to sleep for the next flipping so many years because I'm going to be worried about a blinking tractor coming in and nobody cares about it, and I'm being told that I'm being stupid to think in that way because it wouldn't happen, and nobody can guarantee it can't happen. You can't. Accidents. I've got my stone wall that's been knocked down. I mean, it's been knocked down twice now, hasn't it? Our front garden wall, and that's on the one that hasn't got the slope. And when we drive our cars down, I have to bring my car down because of the ice, because it's too slippy, isn't it? And that's only halfway up our garden, not all the way up to the big slope. And I just feel it's been greatly dismissed. There's no photographs of my grass house here, no things on the land. And then you're assuming that I'm going to be doing that because I got a slide there. You know, you have no idea. I'm allowed to go up into a top garden. I paid for a garden.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking I should be able to use that garden and be able to do it freely. And I can't. I've got horses there now. My outbuildings are ruined. And then I'm getting told that it's okay because there's not going to be much noise pollution because there's only going to be a couple of things. Yeah, I'm going to have all these big vehicles coming up with the materials for that build.
Well, you will initially, I mean...
But that's okay.
But
that's not okay.
Whenever...
So you're telling me that you would be happy to live next door to a trek?
Whenever planning permission is granted, there is always some disruption to a neighbour or neighbours because...
Well, I'm not bothered about building, I'm bothered about the safety of the vehicles coming up right next to my house, my bedroom.
There will be, when they carry out the building works, there will be disruption to you. I've got no doubt about that. That happens in every build that occurs.
I think that, you know, this is trackway, but it keeps going back to our amenity and what seems to be the theme of it is this changing ground level, which seems to be, from your point of view, and so we say...
Well, it's something that I took into account, certainly,
but is our amenity is taken away from us here? Because basically, this in particular now, this area up here, is that, you know, would you want to put a patio there and sit there in the sunshine with horses there? And, you know, it's been taken away from us.
It's totally taken away. The value of my house has been taken away from us.
You're looking at, you know, outbuildings there, as though that's just going to mask it, and you know, they're only temporary structures. You know, they're not.
There are buildings there. You're unlikely to be sat out there when you've got your buildings up there.
No, what I'm
saying is, there's
only one which is stone, the rest are timber. They were there when we moved in.
I know, but they're there though. That's the thing.
But they're not going to block out the light, and I'm still going to get my light blocked in here. I have gorgeous lights.
No, you
yes, I
won't.
will.
It's too far away.
No, it's not. It's not too far. This is quite high. Look at it. I was going to take it away. I'm going to see that when I wake up every morning.
Absolutely no way we would ever refuse that on loss of light. It's simply too far away.
And then we've got the lights that are going to come because they're going to end up having lights.
From your windows.
And they recommend 30 metres away. 30, is it 30 metres?
Who recommends
30 metres?
Who does, sorry?
It's councils again,
we don't...
I'll tell you what, right, after this meeting, I'll be writing to every single, we've already written to the MP about this, and I will make sure that in future planning applications that there's some regulations in regarding to putting stables here. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any stables, but I think it's been ignorant of us all that we're eating away on the green belt, we're moaning about the snow. We are eating away. That's a big building, that's not stable. That's not stable.
It's
appropriate development in the right place though, once residents
and I think that's...
So all I'm talking about though is...
You don't like the position, but you don't mind stables, and I understand that.
And so really what I'm saying though is that, you know, granted the High Peak Council haven't got guidelines, and obviously you've looked at it, and your managers looked at it, but we're talking about two people who've looked at this and assessed that, you know, the neighbouring property and the residents in it, they're not significantly affected by that.
Yeah.
But that's you who, I presume you don't live next door to stables. I'm sure your manager, presume he doesn't.
I overlook stables actually.
You probably wouldn't wish to either.
A commercial stables
but
at that.
What really, that's the point I'm getting at. So when there's guidelines in place, you know, albeit there are other councils, surely there's a reference point, and also British Horse Society as well. You can't go off what, with all due respect, yourself and your manager, who haven't got any knowledge of stables other than what you've been fed by your applicant.
No, but we've dealt with many stable applications.
And every ones that we read were refused.
Some are, yeah, absolutely.
I haven't seen any.
Next to the applicant's house.
No, not always. No.
Yeah, next to the applicant, not our house. So I've not seen any. I've not seen any. I've been looking, and it's not that close, and there's certainly not any treks next to the houses. And I just feel that when we get this letter, from having this meeting today, I feel that you're just trying to justify your result, and Ben's going to justify his answer, and it's going to be totally dismissed.
But to be fair to us, we've made the decision to grant planning permission.
But do you know what? Just because something's been granted doesn't mean that you can't go back and say, do you know what? We've spoken to your neighbours, and we realise that it is close to the thing, and it's close to the thing. That you can always make changes. You know, people. In life, you just don't. If you just accept something, we could easily just accept this, but we can't accept it. And I don't know who I'm going to write to after this, but there must be somebody that cares to realise that noise pollution can't even compare to a trampoline, can't even compare to the normal
trampoline to try and draw.
Let's move away from that noise pollution because it's coming away from.
But it's the health and safety.
It's in a garden. It's in a garden where noise can happen all day, every day. You know. If they wanted to have a barbecue in front of your window, they could do, couldn't they? There's nothing stopping them.
No.
They could, but
I'm trying to say
the health and safety
aspect is something
that's
difficult for us to say that's unacceptable when already.
It has the regulations though. We have regulations to say that it's a distance away, and you've got it in your report. It's a distance away, but we're not gonna reference that because
what regulation?
You made a thing in the report. Where's the report that we got? There was a thing in there saying that.
I don't know which one you're talking about. So if you tell me, then I could try and help explain.
But this is all about explaining, and you saying to us that
you're
going to stick.
Because I know what the policies are of this council, but I don't know what regulation you're talking to. If you tell me, then I will try and explain it to you. In my report, I've given the distances, for example, from the back of your property to this, and I've given the distance there. So you understand when I said 13 metres, that is taken from that window there.
I understand. I don't agree. I don't agree with you actually taking that excessive measurement there.
No. But for me, I wanted to know how close it was going to be. You know.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that so we say if we turned it round the other way, when somebody was putting in planning permission for something that big, and they were kind of giving you the measurement of the apex of the roof.
But I do. So that's how I do assess planning applications on.
It's kind of
proximity to neighbours, the height. If I'm looking at an extension, say. So I was looking at extension here. I'd want to know how close it is to the boundary, what the height is. I would want to know all those measurements so that I could then give my assessment as to whether something was acceptable. That's how we work. That's how planning officers work.
I suppose the other thing I would say though is that obviously I know planning drawings is there's no measurements for something like this, but we are talking about 1 to 5. But when they start digging this, they may find that that's too close to the house. They may want to wing that out there.
If they want to do something like that, then they will need to come back to us here. They can't. They've got consent for exactly what's shown on this plan. They have not got consent to suddenly go,
right, so
let's do that.
Can I ask a question?
They do not have planning permission.
I got a feeling that this is just going to be a total waste of time, and there's going to be no changes. So who do I write above Ben's head then to take this further? Because I'm not going to sit back when I've got children in my home having the risk of a tractor coming into my home, that being so close, and I don't care.
I don't know who else you write to, because you've obviously spoken to the MP or written to the MP. In terms of the council and complaining about what we've done, you're on the first stage by writing to Ben. If you're not satisfied with his response...
From what you say, he's just going to back what you say.
I haven't said anything what Ben's going to say at all. I've said he's going to respond to your letter. Once Ben's done that, and if you're not happy with that response, it then goes to the director. One of the directors here. He then reviews all the case, including Ben's response, and he will write to you. And he may even come out on site, who knows? He will take a look at the whole case. If you're then not happy with his response, it then goes to the chief executive. So there's a 3-stage procedure that you go through here. If then at the end of that you're not happy with the chief executive's response, you then go to the local ombudsman.
So what happens, because you granted the permission, so my neighbour can still go ahead with the planning?
Yeah, they can, yeah.
Regardless that we've got a complaint in?
Yes, they can, that's correct. the local ombudsman is someone who doesn't work for the council. They're completely independent and they oversee all councils.
So given the seriousness of our concerns regarding to, is it health and safety, the environment and the noise and the retaining issues and structural issues, are you still saying that's the case and we still go ahead with this regardless of the seriousness of our concerns?
Yes, they could.
Well, I just think that's a massively big issue problem with the. I just find that just a big letdown to protect the people who own property. You know, I didn't buy into this, and I do find where's that thing here?
But when we,
I would like a copy of Settled Valley Pastoral Special Landscape.
Yeah, you can get that on the council's website.
I'd like to know because this is this is when we try to get things. This is why I've been staying in this house because we had hope we were going to build. Yet we get that we can't build maternally larger, but that is bigger than our dwelling, bigger than their dwelling. No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's all on the green belt.
I'm trying to explain to you. When you want to, if you want to, say you want to demolish your property and rebuild it, the policy is that it can't be materially larger. So you're a bungalow at the moment. Say you wanted to go to 2 stories. You'd be unlikely to be granted planning permission because that's materially larger. You've gone from single storey to 2 storey. You're doubling your height.
But this says, I do not necessarily object to a 2-storey dwelling in this location.
You're talking about something different now.
But this.
What's this?
I just, you know what? When we.
This is from 2012. We did employ an architect to.
It's me.
So it's you. And then this is your letter to the architect. Which So these were our initial plans.
Right, let me just explain. In Greenbelt, there are different rules for extending or rebuilding, to stables. So I can't say, well, we've allowed that, so therefore we'll definitely allow that. It does not work like that in the Greenbelt. The policy...
Well, the stables, they can turn that into stables, and the student can turn that into a business. The student have the lights on. She's career-minded. I can tell you for now that's going to end up commercial. And I can tell you for now that's, that someone's going to have an accident in our garden. I can guarantee it. And I just think that the council are going to be totally liable, because if anything else happens, I should really be putting... the costing thingies and the implications of our sheds being completely ruined. It's going to get even more ruined by this. And there's no protection on us. We've got a fence there. We don't have any protection against our garden. And they're allowed to build this massive thing in 22 metres away. They're 38 metres away from that, and you've got no answers for that. It's to say it's totally acceptable.
Because I found 22 metres to be an acceptable distance, with the fact that you have got your sheds there, you have got...
So my sheds aren't hiding all that land. I've got a big garden.
It will.
It's not going to hide it. It's not. And they're going to have to come down because they're knackered because of the building being so close and ruining it all.
No, the builder's not there then. If they're in poor condition now, that's as a result of the existing buildings. You cannot put...
What we're really saying is that's... All right.
You cannot blame the condition of your buildings on this.
No, I can't.
These outbuildings, okay, all right,
I looked at them and I have to say I thought they were fairly dilapidated when I was on site.
Yeah.
I walked right up to this boundary and had a look at them. So the condition of those buildings cannot be blamed on the use of this land.
Yes, I can. They've ruined them completely.
They didn't need permission to put horses on. If that is the case, that the horses have damaged...
So can you tell me why you have to put conditioning for drainage then with horses and stables? Because if the horses going to... That's supposed to be all green belt. That was all green. And that was a bloody mess. There's all water retaining coming here. And this is why I'm not going to let this go, because I just think there's some restrictions.
So do other animals that are in the green belt. Cows, for example, do exactly the same. You cannot say that suddenly that
Well, it was suddenly. It has been. It has.
But
This
the
is how
condition
it's.
of the land, and if it's having an effect on you now, that is a matter between both parties.
But you've encouraged it by passing this thing.
But they haven't
built
built it. So any problems you're experiencing now, you need to talk to your neighbours.
Well, our neighbours won't talk to us because she's flying us off here.
Get a surveyor in because
Well, why should I get a surveyor?
Because you're saying the damage that's been done at this point, when there's no building works on, is as a result of the horses.
Yes,
that
it is.
That is a civil issue between both parties.
Can I move on from that though? Is that these outbuildings, obviously, they only go so far, and then this is the rest of it. You know, it's quite a big garden. So I'm not sure. You know, the thinking behind these masking that.
It's the building I'm talking about.
Yeah, the building. So
yeah.
So what I'm saying is, you know, this is our garden. That's the
and you're looking over a field full of horses. That's perfectly acceptable.
No, what I'm saying is the stables there.
Yeah, sorry. No, what I'm saying is that in this area here, yes, if you walk down to this corner of your garden, yes, you can see back to the building. I absolutely accept that. But in the place where this is closest to your boundary is screened by your existing buildings and the trees. I accept you can down here, but the closest part, there is something that's in between your own property, your garden, and then you've got your outbuildings and trees. There is something there that screens it.
Yeah, I think, you know, what the principle here is obviously, you know, it's your opinion, and obviously what counts here is well, what appears to count is your opinion, because you're not referring to any guidelines. So it's
well, there's no, as I say, we have no guidelines to say that stables shall be this size. There is nothing that High Peak have that. The policy we have recognises and states that equestrian uses in the open countryside and green belt is an acceptable use. It says that.
Well, you know, going back to the side of the stable, why not kind of, you know, look at it on the basis of, instead of the applicant just saying, well, you know, I want a bit more room and I want it this big.
I mean, we do deal with lots of these applications, and we take every application on their own merit and decide whether we think, you know, that size of building is acceptable or not. And we look at the amount of land they have, the number of horses they have. We don't just say that building is okay.
This here, it says, seeks to ensure that new development does not harm the amenities of existing future residents. Well, it's harmonious, and we've put that it's harmonious.
Yeah.
So how can that not be harmonious?
I think you know, the significant thing here is that obviously, you know, me and Kira now have to look at moving because we feel that that's strongly bad. So that has, you know,
has had an effect on how you're going to not enjoy your property.
It's affected residential amenity, hasn't it? So that's the point we keep coming back to.
Yeah.
And we don't think, or we know it's not justified to, you know, because you
don't feel like it's been justified.
And there's that justification. If you'd, with some justification, refer to guidelines, may not be the High Peak Council's guidelines, but there's guidelines there, then there's some reference point for justification. But when it's down to an individual, whether it be the manager of that individual, what we're really saying is that where's the justification of, you know, if it's 22 metres is acceptable, it's 13 metres acceptable. There's no, you know, you can move the goalpost to suit, shall we say, and there's no basis to it.
If you and I were building two houses, and we have privacy standards at the council, now this is when it's a house-to-house distance, window to window, and that privacy distance is 21 metres between the two faces of a building. So this stable isn't a house, and it's positioned 22 metres away from you, with intervening outbuildings and trees. And it's the combination of all those factors that lead us to say that this building in its position is not going to harm your residential amenity.
But it is.
I know you say because I'm trying to explain to you what. I'm trying to explain what factors we took into account.
What we're saying is, and I know, you know, this is weighted, but what we're saying is we're coming at you from the point of view is that we're not experts on stables and horses, and neither are you guys, and we're looking at guidelines where councils have seen that they do affect the residents and that they do affect the landscape, and so they've produced guidelines to protect both parties, should we say.
Yeah.
And they felt the need for that. And so we've been sensible and used that as a reference point.
Yeah.
And really what we're seeing from your side is that we don't see the sense, because it's purely a personal justification and you dismiss any guidelines.
It's not personal justification, it's looking on the ground what is there and what are the factors that are going to influence me either way to conclude. It doesn't affect you or doesn't.
But what I'm saying is that is a personal justification.
But you using outbuildings that are falling down. So basically, you're not going to be there for much longer because they're completely worn out because of this, regardless if it's their fault or not.
Well, it's
and you saying that that's amenities. I'm saying that you in this case, I feel greatly you totally dismissed this, saying you kind of. I kind of read this report and I thought actually you were working for these people, in fact, because everything you've done, you kind of said yes.
If you're accusing me of working for the applicants, I'm going to have to stop the meeting now, because that is completely false and untrue. I'm
not accusing you. I'm just saying that's how it feels, because every objection we had when we put our planning in for something else, another property, we had to change the housing thing. Listen to the objection, and we had to change it from fencing to stone, and we did that to please the objection, and that seemed to work, and they seemed to want to please the person whose objection, who has to live near this, to saying to us, well, that's not acceptable, you have to change it. And in our case, everything that we objected to has totally been dismissed, and I don't feel that I'm going to get from Ben any reassurance that it's health and safety, because one, in this report, when I keep reading it, the more I read it, in fact, the lying down of former land services in the manner proposed is commonly found in the countryside. There's a garden next to my window. That's a few yards of my bedroom space. That you can see, that you can already see in God knows how they got planning permission in the first place of this house, of the window, because it's so close. You can even wave at them, can't you?
It was built in the 1970s, and in the 1970s, the rules and regulations were probably nowhere near as strict as they are now.
But even though we got restrictions, you seem to be, every time I'm going back to this trek in this road, I just feel like my voice is just not worthy. And my voice is not.
I'm trying to explain to you what I've taken into account.
But you're not listening to me.
I was
hoping that there was going to be a compromise, and the council would say to us, you know what, we made a mistake, and we need to go back to the neighbours and say, you know what, that is too close to the property. Now they're going to go ahead and build that, and I've got nothing I can do as a person who pays my council tax, as a person who pays my taxes. I've got to live in this property that's cost me a lot of money. To come and have somebody come in here and get planning permission, you've ignored every single objection, and you kind of tried to think it, and I just don't feel you've listened. You didn't listen to us before. We tried to ring you before you even put the planning forward, to have this conversation before you passed the thing, to listen to our thing in hope that something would have been done to move this. And you said it was a waste of time today, didn't you? Because you just said they're not going to be bothered about moving it. They don't have to live in the property. We have to live in the property.
If you came here today expecting that there was going to be a change to these plans as an outcome of this meeting, that wasn't going to happen. Planning permission has been granted, and we can't go back and change it.
You can always go back and change things.
No,
people change. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. You can. You can't say can't. There's nothing such thing as can't. People said to me, I would get regulations back in for another subject, and I have. I've done that because I campaigned for it. And if I have to campaign against this, I will do. I find it absolutely ridiculous, and I just feel that I'd rather have a conversation with Ben before building does start, because this is affecting my health at the moment. I can't sleep very well. It's causing me loads of stress. And in here it says, you know, you have to take account of matters such as overlooking and overbearing effects of development, visual intrusion. I feel like I'm in a greenhouse at the moment. not harm the abilities of existing and future residents. You have harmed it. You harmed it in every way because I didn't sign up to have a trek next door to me. I just didn't do that. Our drive isn't even big enough for a car, is it? The official drive that goes to the garage, you can't actually put a car up there because it's that tight. And you're saying there's nothing absolutely we can do. I just find that incredibly poor. And I'm just saying that it's just nobody cares. You've not cared at all about objections.
Away from them. I can't take their planning.
Well, I've seen planning permissions in other councils, and they've written and said we made a mistake. And I'm not saying you don't give them.
I don't know which councils because I don't know any councils.
Well, I've found that there's one council that did do it, and that's why I didn't think it was impossible that there would be some compromise, and I had hope that we can compromise. And all you've done is justify.
But I can't. We've granted planning permission. I can't give you a compromise because I haven't got the ability.
But you need to know. But you need to provide us with health and safety issues, structure details on how safe that is, because you haven't given me any reassurance at all that's safe.
I think we probably should end the meeting. I don't think we're getting any further here. And you're just shouting at me.
I'm not shouting.
And
I just feel that you're not listening.
I try to listen to you, but I can't give you the answers you want. That's the difference. I can't take away what we've granted planning permission for.
I mean, you're right, let's end it. But I haven't got any justification of the decisions made. That, from my point of view.
The report
and obviously, yeah.
And I've tried to listen, but I can't agree with some of the assessments that you're making.
But what I'm saying is we're not just making an assessment or a justification on the basis of we don't like it. It's a matter of we've done the research to actually justify what we're saying.
Yeah.
And really from what we read from you, and then what we've heard today, we've not heard justification.
Okay.
So that's really what we're saying is, and obviously you're telling us that there's not a damn thing we can do, and I'm sure you're right.
I just think it's grossly unfair that we've had to change things for other people in our objections, and I feel greatly that every single objection, forgetting all the green barrows, every single objection, everything in the letter of complaint, it's just dismissed, and nobody's going to give me any reassurance of health and safety, environment, or the horse manure, or the horses coming round and next thing I'm going to see biting my daughters on the thingies.
I can't give you health and safety confirmation because actually it would be
because I've dealt with planning before, and they have in it about health and safety. This was a building contractor. He would have to ride I think this is the issue though, isn't it?
The only thing you can ask, and I don't think there's any point in kind of just getting worked up, is if there's anything you can do for us, and that is obviously
what I won't let them do is do anything different than this.
and that's what I'm saying, and also the conditions as well.
Yes.
I hope they're not just a formality. They can say where they're putting them in your, how often they actually move it, where they leave it to.
I mean, that's all the conditions I've put in here. I've said all of these are absolutely necessary. They're absolutely critical in order for them to start the building works. I want to know upfront everything. Yeah, and that is necessary. And if they don't do it, it's enforceable. That's the other thing.
But how do we know that this is going to be? How it's going to be like this planning, isn't it? Well, that they're just going to submit something, and you're just going to say it's okay because everything's okay considering that you think that hasn't impacted.
I know.
It hasn't impacted us, and it has impacted me. I got to sleep on the night now, worrying about that coming in my house.
I'm not trying to upset you. I do promise you, I'm not trying to upset you, and please don't get upset.
I am upset because this.
I know.
This has just totally destroyed me since Christmas. They came over, all nice as pie, saying that they're going to do these tables, and it's me thinking it's going to be like a square, which is going to be a distance from my house. I don't want to be unreasonable with new people. And I was expecting that to be on
Yeah.
their side, not ours. And it's so close. It's so close.
And they've obviously perhaps told you something that then when it came to this, they've done something different.
And then we tried to contact you, to try to get in touch with you, to hopefully have something in place before this got approved. Do you know what? We can get you a point. At the moment, you've just all you can see, all I can feel, and is that you have to justify yourself because you passed it.
I'm not justifying myself. I'm saying that this is the decision we've taken, and I'm trying to explain how the decision was arrived at.
But that you're saying that the guidelines, the guidelines are a real big trigger for me in my life. And I just think, you know what, the guidelines were done for a reason.
But guidelines are just that, they're not a mandatory requirement.
But the thing is,
you must do this. If it was, I would accept exactly what you were saying.
But the thing is, that guidelines were put in there to avoid things like this.
But guidelines aren't a precise measurement, are they? They're a guideline.
Yeah, but there should be. There should be.
I might agree with you. I might agree with you.
There should be.
I might agree with you
because the whole point of policies and things is to avoid things like this. And I just think that it's just...
Oh, I mean,
I agree with you that guidelines should be an
just going back to these conditions. I know you say that we don't get to see them and don't have opportunity.
Well, no, you can do. What happens with the discharge of condition application? So it comes in as an application to us, and they submit all their information. Yeah. We then display that on the website.
Right.
So it's not hidden from anyone. We don't consult neighbours, and that's just, we do that across the board with all the conditions. But so, you can look at them. Okay. You can contact me.
I mean, are you able to? I mean, obviously, if they come back and say we're going to put manure all on this fence.
Absolutely not. I can tell you that right now. That's not going to happen.
So I'm just.
Which is why I put the condition on, so they didn't go and do that.
Right. And then is there going to be? I've seen stables where the manure just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So is there going to?
Well, the condition as it's worded, let me just find it here, is the location, storage, and timetable for its disposal.
Right. Okay.
So is it once a month?
Right.
Twice a month? Once every 2 months? What is it? That's what I want to know.
Right.
So we won't agree this condition until we've got all that information in.
Right.
So if the location came in, I'm going to put it right there, and it's going to be left there for 12 months before it's removed. We would say no. I can tell you that right now.
Because they've already got the bath there, so it's just going to be predictable.
I can't stop them doing that.
Is the council not under any obligations then to provide health and safety on this trek?
No.
So why is that then? Why are they not liable for that?
Health and safety is under the Health and Safety Executive. It's not under the council's remit.
But surely if it's under planning though, because when we
So
weren't...
the one question that you did put in your latest, which I don't know the answer to, is whether this needs building regulations. That will be something that Ben will look into. I don't know.
I think I was asking about, there's obviously surface water, but there's foul drainage as well. Yeah. And with it being on the slope, there's a tendency that, everything runs downhill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we've got this condition, a method for surface water disposal, so I will want to know where that is going.
Is that plans what they have to submit?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But whether they actually need building regulations to build the stable and the track itself, I'd have to ask the building regs team. I don't know the answer to that. But I want to know where the water's going to drain to.
Yeah.
But I just can't believe that there's no restrictions on that track. It scares me. It scares me greatly. It scares me greatly.
I think it's under the health and safety.
There's no double fencing as well, because literally that gate, it's right on our gate, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
But if a horse wanders over and starts eating vegetation or anything, then that is a civil matter between the parent.
But you could have implemented it because you passed that, and you could have said, because you referred back to the horsing association. I just feel greatly that has just been one rule for them and just dismissal of the people who already live in there.
Well, when I receive a planning application, I'm on nobody's side. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the development plan, looking at the policies that we have, and then applying them to the development. So,
I just don't
so I
understand.
don't start off
But I
with
don't
the point
understand.
of, you can't have it because of these guys.
But I don't understand
or
why
they can
you.
definitely have it irrespective of what they think. That is not the way that it's.
But why is it that you dismiss that the 22 metres is acceptable
I think
to
that's
the
an
first meal?
acceptable distance. I think that's an acceptable distance.
So you would live in our house then?
If that's acceptable. What I would do. I live near stables, so I know exactly what it's like. Believe me, I live near a commercial stables, not even a one-person stables.
But that is your choice to buy the house. That I didn't have a choice in this matter, and I.
You know,
stupid. I'm so
my
stupid.
my garden is a bit like yours. I look onto the end of the building. I mean, you know, and I don't even know the horses are there, to be perfectly honest with you.
The horses are there because they're always eating
but you can,
grass.
but you can see them obviously because they're on higher grounds.
But who's there to protect us in this then? Because you're saying that basically they can go ahead.
Well, you
and
could.
do this. And this is making me quite ill, to be honest.
If you were so concerned about your safety, then you can put up a 2 metre fence all the way along there and you don't need planning permission.
Yeah, but that's eating into our garden.
No, on the boundary.
On the what do you mean?
Wherever your boundary is, you put your fence up. You've got whatever your low-level fencing is. It's sort of a bit of a combination of all sorts from memory. You know where your outbuildings are, behind your outbuildings.
Yeah.
Where your boundary is, I don't know if you've got. Is it a bit of a stone wall and some sort of a wire? Wherever your boundary is, if you're that concerned, then you could go and put a 2 metre fence up there and.
Yeah, but 2 metre. A 2 metre fence though.
6'6".
But then I thought if it's adjoining these neighbours, you have to have a permission from them.
If it's on your, it's got to be on your boundary. So you know, I don't know where your boundary is exactly. You do.
But then that's.
I'm just trying to give you a solution. If you're.
I know, but it's not. It's yeah, but it's. You know, I didn't buy into this.
Yeah,
I didn't buy into this. I didn't. You know, I bought the house for this land. I bought the house.
But you can't buy a house and think there'll never be development around you. Because in the green belt, you're not allowed to build houses in the green belt. Absolutely. But if you want agricultural buildings, you want things like stables.
But
yes,
when we read, in fairness, when we read, and our understanding was that if it went from I can't pronounce it.
Agriculture.
To recognising that you need a plan. This is what most planning places are. It seems to highly. I just think
you are right. You are absolutely right. But at the moment, we've not seen the evidence that that's what they're using the land for. But if they do, then we can quite rightly say you need to apply for planning permission for the use of that land now because you're doing something slightly different. If they're just keeping the horses on it, the horses are there grazing on the land, and that's all that's happening. You don't need planning permission for that. But if they start using it for what we call a recreational purpose, so they're going a bit beyond than just allowing horses to graze, then they do require consent. So you're right, but I can't say at the moment they haven't done that.
Well, it's just that it's horses and sheep is that kind of use, isn't it? But
well, you wouldn't need. You would see, for example, you wouldn't need planning permission to put sheep on the land or cows. Yeah, just so you'd. But you're right in terms of horses can be different, but at the moment.
But that's what they did. They just dumped it. They played it very clever.
Well, if they just put,
very clever.
If they just put the horses on the land, they've actually done nothing wrong.
Yeah, but it was actually architectural. Oh, I can't. Right, can I just check with something? So when Ben writes back, then you don't know what he's going to write back with. But are you saying that nobody can change your decision in regarding to where this stable's going?
Yes, that's correct.
So what is the point of the complaints procedure if nothing can be changed on this plan?
Well, what Ben will do is review, for example, the whole process of the application. So he will look from day one to when we made the decision to see that procedurally everything was correct and we did everything and took into account all of your objections. He will go back through everything. But he'll actually be responding to your letter because you've written in it and highlighted in bold certain things that you want answering, so he will be answering that.
So we go back and look at the plans.
Well, he's already seen the plans. You've got to bear in mind he what we call signed this one. He decided that planning permission should be granted. He will have seen the photographs I've shown you today. He will have also seen your letter that you wrote in at the time of the planning application, or the planning agent's letter, should I say. But bearing in mind we sign off lots of planning applications, he'll just go back to review to remind himself, that's all. That's what I'm saying, he'll just go back to check everything. But he's going to look at your letter and want to answer the questions that you've raised.
So it's just, so really it's just like, in reality it's just like a let's justify ourselves even more to answer the questions, because
if he found, say I don't know, say he found something that I hadn't taken into account, say, then he'd respond to you on that, and I don't know what he would say, but he would advise you on that and tell you about it.
But he can't change.
Yeah.
He can't. You saying to me he can't change the distance.
He can't change that decision.
But why can't he change that if he's the planning officer? I wouldn't understand that bit, because I just find that strange and bizarre that you got these directors. You got what's his position here? He's head of land.
Yeah.
Head of planning.
What each of those stages do is they review the decision that's been made, and in the complaints procedure, Ben, as the manager of the section, is the first person to review everything. Even though he's signed the decision, he will still go back and do the first review. That's part of his role. And then after that, the director won't know anything about this, the chief exec won't know anything about this, so he will go and then do another review of everything that's happened. So, I may be asked by the director to go and see him to explain anything. He's reviewed the case, he's reviewed your complaint, he's got some questions for me so that he can formulate a response to you.
But what's the point of having a formal complaint, having the serious things that we've come across, you can't do anything to say to the applicant?
If you had in your mind that going through the complaints procedure was going to change the outcome of this,
I was hoping there was going to be a compromise. I thought that you would have taken my points about the immediacies and about the distance from that window to my bedroom living accommodation and take them seriously. And it seems like that I'm powerless.
But I think you came with an expectation that I'd be able to go away and change something, and that's I was
hoping. Yeah, well, when you have situations like this, you would expect something or a compromise to be made when it's impacting my life, my home.
You can't do that in planning.
But there's no such word as can't. You can always do something.
I'm sorry, but there is in planning.
Who changes that then? Who's in charge of setting the procedures?
I think you need to go and see a lawyer then, because the only way you could...
So you're telling me that I can only see a lawyer? There's nothing in this country or nobody that can protect me like MPs or...
Reverse a planning decision? No, there isn't. You will have to go to court for that. Now, I would have to speak to the legal team, because I must admit, I've never come across a planning permission being reversed. I've never come across planning decisions being reversed, so I'd have to take legal advice of exactly what the process is for that. But I've never come across it. And
you never come across anyone compromising. I just find that so many injustice here. I just feel that, when we've had to compromise with people,
you're comparing one situation with a different situation.
I deal with a lot of situations. And
we have to follow exactly the same process.
Even when house builders, they have villages having to do retaining wall in sloping lands. And why say there's nothing, and that's why I don't understand it. Because it's digging into the land. That's all going to be digging. That's going to be quite a deep dig, isn't it? And that's going to be digging.
Well, we know exactly what they're doing because it's shown on the plans here, this dotted line. Now, the place that's closest to you is there.
But you don't even know what that land is, and you don't know how solid it is until you start digging.
No, you don't.
There's no reports.
No, you don't.
And then there's no environmental things.
So just so you know, the end of the building that's closest to you is actually where the least land alterations are going. It's over in the other corner. So it's here.
On the actual position of it as well, quite raised actually, what they will find is when they start digging, they'll find the roots of that hedge.
Maybe, yeah.
So that's going to move out, isn't it?
No. I mean, they'll have to position it there. If the hedge dies, so be it. That's them. They could remove that hedge tomorrow and they wouldn't need planning permission for it. You could remove your trees tomorrow if you wanted to, you wouldn't need planning. So they may sever the roots.
Right.
That's up to them. Then they lose their barrier, don't they? They're sort of screening.
So going back to the complaint procedure, so he will respond to our letter,
Yes.
and then if we're not happy with that, we go to the directors, and then
Correct.
basically the directors just look at that decision. And all what's the kind of like resolution?
Well,
and there's no resolution because
no,
you're saying they can't compromise and they can't move things.
If you think the complaints procedure is going to change this decision, it won't do that through whether you go to Ben Hayward, the director or the chief exec. It's not going to change that decision. But if you feel that the decision has been taken unjustly and I've not taken into account your concerns, then what those people are doing is reviewing the assessment that I made.
The review, so what does that mean then? What does that end up with, a review? They're
just reviewing, well, they're looking at whether they think that the decision and the reasons I made that decision was correct or not, I suppose. But what they can't do is change. They can't say, right, we're going to take the planning permission away. They can't do that.
So you're saying you can't change the thingy, but surely you should be able to change the restrictions and the places.
I'm really sorry. I'd like to say that you could. It won't
if you find something, is incorrect,
I'm not sure what they'd find that's incorrect, but they will, because they'll read everything that you produce. So they will take a look at this. I mean, I've read it. I've made my own notes here because I can. See some things that, I can answer immediately. But they would have a fresh look at it. It's like a fresh pair of eyes.
But they haven't seen the land because we only learn about photographs, and half the photographs are missing in fairness in our garden.
I was involved in another case where there was one neighbour complaining against another neighbour, and he went through all the three complaint stages, so Ben, director, chief exec. The director and the chief exec went out on site to the person making the complaint to see whether he thought the complaint was justified in terms of reprimanding me, say, or what. And they reviewed every document there. It wasn't just my report, your letters, everything was reviewed, and they went to site. I mean, in that case, they concluded that they thought the planning decision was right. I mean, it wasn't my decision, actually, but it was something I was involved in for a different reason. So they review everything to make, because what they want to make sure is, I suppose, they need to know that their planning officers are making robust, fair, reasonable decisions. And if there's any accusation that, as a planning officer, I'm not, or any of my colleagues, then that's where the complaints procedure sort of says, hang on a minute, are the planning officers doing the right, taking the right decision, doing the right job? So they're overseeing what we're doing in effect. Because part of your complaint is, I've not taken into account the impact on you. So that's what the basis of your complaint is. I know there's lots of bits to that, but they will go through and see whether they think that I did that or not.
What is the point of doing all that if you're saying that they can't change it? And what is the point of doing anything
because
if you can't change it?
You're stating that the planning officer has not made a just decision, so they need to investigate whether that's true or not.
But the thing is,
that's for them to decide, isn't it?
It's easy when
but it doesn't change the decision. If that's what you're hoping the complaints procedure would do, unfortunately it won't do. But it does get to whether decisions are being taken correctly or not.
But then that's not protecting the people, and what's the point of having a planning officer who can't admittedly make a mistake because you can't change anything? I just find that I feel really, it's making me feel really ill, in fact, thinking about it, because I just can't believe that no one saw how close that was to our land, how all the health and safety issues, and all my years of working in house building, when I know that it's been so difficult getting planning, and this has gone through as if it's just every single objection. It's just like you've built up an argument, counter argument, why you shouldn't have had this and why is it. I have to sit out. So you say to me, when you look out your window, you've got a road right next to your window.
But your main area is not there, is it? It's over here.
That's where I live.
It's over
That's
here.
I'm sleeping in that.
Sorry, no. So you said you'd step outside.
No, but I'm sleeping. This is inside. I'm sleeping in there.
Your main amenity area is in this area.
I'm sleeping in that area. I'm living in there.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing's been taken into account. That's why I'm quite cross about it.
I'm really sorry. I have tried to explain to you when I assessed this. I assessed it on the basis of what this could already be used at. This area can already be used at. A
trampoline's not going to jump in my garden.
It was one example. I'm sorry I used that example because that's been thrown back at you. The point I was making is this is a garden area where you can have noise and disturbance already, notwithstanding the fact it's close to your bedroom.
I just find it incredible that I don't know where it is now, but it just seems pointless because basically,
Sorry, that one's mine.
basically, you justified the impact on us. You justified the closeness of the boundary, and I just find it incredible. I'm just heartbroken because I've had all these years of waiting for this nice home of mine, and then I'm faced with this. And I can't put my children at risk. It's taken me 7 years to get pregnant again, and I've got to think about the health and safety of my children. And I'm not gone on to have children to put them at risk. And I just feel that it's injustice because there's nothing from what you're saying. Even if we go through all this complaint procedure, all he's going to do is somebody justify themselves, but they're not sitting in my shoes. They've not listened to one single thing we said, have they? Not one single thing.
I haven't listened to you today.
No, you've not listened to us before because if you did...
Sorry, I'm really sorry, but I have. I've tried to sit and listen and explain things, and at times it's been difficult to do so. And I think probably the best thing now is to leave this now to Mr. Haven to deal with, because I feel like I'm upsetting you a great deal, which I don't wish to do so at the moment.
Because
really
look at it, you can see it. You can see it from there, look. And that's not going to impact me, and there's no one's going to come down and crash into my home. And you're saying that Ben's not even good, doesn't even have to justify that.
I've not said that. You're putting words now. You're making.
I'm just trying to sum it up. I'm just trying to sum it up so I understand it.
Fairly. I've not said that Ben's not going to be looking at. He's going to look. He's going to look at all the points you've raised in this letter and respond to you. I don't know how he's going to respond. But you've assumed that he's going to just disregard everything you say. I don't know how he's going to respond to you. And I'm sorry I'm upsetting you because I don't mean to do so. I don't want to be fair.
Because it's too late.
Just...
Come on.
Do you want me to leave just for a few minutes in here?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Come on. There's no use saying what, we just...
There's some tissue, I've got tissue.
Do you want a description? It's quite apt, we're flooding a dead horse.
Yeah.
What time have a picture of 3:15?
Yeah, I've got to go.
There's nothing we can do.
You'll be alright, guess now.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very sorry you were upset, all right?
I just wish you came to us before. I just think it's unjustified because you haven't seen it.
You just take it easy.
I've been living 7 years to have a nice, beautiful home, but it's just been ruined. And I just feel that there's... I just had this so stupid thinking that there could have been a compromise. And I just think the system's wrong because there's this... It's so close. And that's what's making me feel really ill at the moment.
Don't be ill, not in the condition you're in at the moment.
But it is.
No, I know it's upsetting you, but think about that baby. Yeah. That's the first priority, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
I just got the worry now of a car coming from my house. And everyone's saying I'm balmy, but you know what? I've had so many things happen, and people said, "Oh, it never happened," and it happened. And I just hope that the council has some policies put in place to help us avoid someone else, because there needs to be.
Okay.
Right, come on.
Right. Okay.
Okay.